So I wanted to make a very quick tutorial on the basics of logistics pipes and how to make a basic request factory. I'm going to try to keep this as simple and fast as possible, just as this is basic, but it is very important to understand. So to start any logistics pipe, you need a power junction. Now these can take EU or RF energy. RF energy is, I believe, easier to fill this up completely, but EU is perfectly fine. You can use medium voltage water mills. I believe high voltage is too much power, but feel free to check that yourself. A lot of servers, it does not matter, and they will just not explode, but they may just not work. So maybe test in creative if you want, or solar panels or whatever power you want to use to power this. So once you have basic power and it is connected to pipes, you can then start to add items to the network. Now the simplest way to do this is to grab a chest. I'll show you an example. Connect it to a provider pipe and put something in the chest. So if you want to check currently what is being provided to your network, the simplest way to do this is to connect a request table to any pipe that's currently on the network, open it, and you'll see what items are currently in your network or what items you can craft. But we'll get to how you can craft items in a second. So as you can see, there is no dye in here, but if I connect a provider pipe to a chest, put the dye in the chest, check here, it is now part of the network. That's all this is too. It's not, you don't need a chest, you can use condensers and pretty much anything that has inventory space connects to the network, but if it's not a basic chest or condenser, I'd recommend you double check in the request table first. Now to actually craft things is not complicated at all. What you do is you grab a crafting table and we'll just get rid of these, and a crafting pipe. Put down the table, you put down the pipe. Then in here, you select whatever you want to craft. The easiest way to do this is to find an item. Since we have iron, we're going to make an iron furnace. You hover over the item and you hit R. If you hit left click on the mouse, what it's going to do is it's going to let you drag the item into here, but that's not great for crafting. It is helpful for some other things using logistics pipes. But what you want to do is you want to hover over the item, you want to hit R, and then hit the item with, just hit the little plus mark, and then you want to grab a wrench or a grab it tool. You want to right click this, this is a provider pipe. You want to right click the crafting pipe that's connected to the crafting table, hit import, and now you can grab any item on the network. Or now you can request the item, sorry. So for example, if we request this, it requests an iron furnace. Now, this is the basics. You can now basically request anything you want as long as it's the items for it's being provided and you have a crafting recipe. But in order to make sure you don't overflow the crafting table, there is a very easy precaution you can take, and that's what this is right here. So this is a diamond compartment. Just think of it as a very big chest. It can hold, I believe, 25,000 items, but you could do any sort of chest you want here. And what this is a chassis. Now if you look at all the logistics pipes items, you can see there's a lot of modules. They're not pipes. If you ever want to use one of these modules, they need to be in a chassis. That's pretty much all chassis means. It's something that can hold modules. They don't really have another purpose besides that they can hold multiple modules at once. So you can have basically one pipe that can do multiple things compared to a pipe that can only do one thing. Now in this chassis, what you want to do is you want to set an item sync module with default route yes, and you want to have a provider module. Now this is a very simple workaround to the fact that these crafting tables have limited inventory space. If you right click on one of these, you can see how the logic of a crafting table works. It's basically saying, hey, give me 8 iron ingots, I will give you an iron furnace. But what this crafting table doesn't, or sorry, what this crafting pipe does not know is the inventory space of the crafting table. So, the basic problem with this is, hey, give me 8 iron ingots, I'll give you an iron furnace. But if 8 iron ingots can't fit into this chest, or this crafting table, it doesn't really know what to do. And so it gets stuck in this pipe and it starts to overflow. Now, if you have an item sync with the default route set to yes, what that means is any item that's currently stuck in the network with no destination will be flowed into here. If you have it on no, that basically means that you can put an individual item in here. It's like, if there's grass blocks in the network that are stuck, bring it to here, not any item you want. But if you have no items in here, you hit yes, it's any item that's stuck in the network will get sent to here. So, let's do a little example. Let's quest like, yeah, we need 192 furnaces. This is going to quickly fill up. Instead of overflowing, what's going to happen is they're going to start flowing into here. And this just basically acts as an extra inventory space for the crafting table. You make sure you have a provider module in here, or else they're just going to get sucked into here. But it does continue crafting it. Not only does it store it, it will also just automatically pull it into this chest. There are satellite pipes that do the same thing, except it's a lot more complicated, as they basically just act as an extra inventory space rather than sending it back to the crafting table itself. So that's important to keep in mind. I'd say that this is almost always better than using satellite pipes. For very big factories, you're going to want to have multiple of these. In a very big factory where you're very advanced, what you'd want to do is have black hole units for each individual item in the crafting table. So since this is only one item, you can pretty much use one black hole unit. And since black hole units can only carry one type of item, that will be fine. But when you have multiple items in a crafting table, you want a black hole unit for each item. Yeah, so you can do this with multiple crafting tables. They'll all go to here. This isn't specific to this crafting table. We didn't do any programming for that. But yeah, this is the basics. Last thing I want to show you is this, which I think is a very good invention. If you use a remote order, and then you grab a, oh sorry, not a remote order, a remote orderer logistics pipe, and then you grab a remote orderer. If you shift, or sorry, not even if you shift, if you just right click this pipe, you're gonna have a, you can basically request any items you want remotely. But what this is gonna do is it's just gonna send this to whatever it's connected to, which means that you can order things remotely, but you're still gonna have to go to the table to pick it up, which does have its purposes, but there's a much easier and better way to do this. If you connect the remote orderer to an ender chest, and then you grab an ender pouch, you shift the ender pouch, and you right click the ender chest, this now shares the same inventory. So if we request, oh sorry, let's do like a minecart, request the minecart, we open this bag, we now have a remote orderer and a remote way to pick up the items. So you never really have to go back to the LP system. If the chunk deloads, then this doesn't work, so that's important to keep in mind. But yeah, this is the basics of a logistics pipe request factory. Something I do personally is I will, instead of just having the condenser as its own inventory space, what I'll do is I'll put the condenser like here, put a machine buffer into a diamond compartment, and then put the provider module here. So then rather than there only being the amount of iron ingots that can fit in a condenser, it's the amount of iron ingots that can fit in a diamond compartment, if that makes sense. In my next video, I'll kind of go more into that and how I personally build request factories. This is just a basic example, but that's all I have for today. Thank you.